What's worthwhile? Healing mind, body, and spirit. I'm Ramsey Zimmerman. I choose peace of mind, vitality of body, and joy of spirit over stress, exhaustion, or overwhelm. Together, let's explore and pursue the many ways to build holistic health and wellness.
And then as time went on, I realized that there's just, there's so much more to it. And how can we, in our human experience, really experience true health if we're not taking into account our emotional health, there's lots of cancers linked to traumas, like childhood traumas and things. So we have our emotional health, we have our spiritual health, and our spiritual health is how we connect to God, how we connect to ourselves, how we connect to other people. And if we can't get a full picture of all these things together, what is true health also? I mean, true health is also kind of, I think, living out your purpose, living out your human experience in a way that's helping other people, engaging with other people, engaging with your environment. Like all these things is really like kind of how I approach health in general, but I also want to speak to the whole person.
Hey there, it's Ramsey here. That was Becky J. Webb. Becky is a nutritional therapy practitioner, certified life coach, and faith-based wellness coach who helps women move from overwhelm and exhaustion to energy, hormone balance, and vitality. We spoke a lot about body, mind, and spirit connections and how being truly healthy bridges all of these aspects of ourselves. We discussed the foundation of healthy eating to get the nutrients we need, the role of plant-based supplements to fill in the gaps, and our strong preference for essential oils over artificial scents. I hadn't expected our conversation to start out with vaccination and illnesses, but looking back, I'm glad I got a chance to hear Becky's personal experiences around an issue that is often left unspoken. Let's begin. Hey, Becky, how are you doing today?
Good. Doing good.
Good. Well, hey, it's great to have you on. I'm glad that we connected online, and thanks for joining me. You're a fellow NTP and certified life coach and a faith-based wellness coach. I get the sense that you and I share the sort of belief and idea that mind, body, and spirit are kind of fully intertwined, and that you can't really support somebody or even your own health, looking at only some of those. You have to look at kind of all three of those in order to really support our health. But I'd love to hear first kind of how and why did you get interested in health and wellness coaching?
Yeah, so I grew up as a child of a chiropractor. Mm-hmm. And actually a grandchild of a chiropractor. So my grandfather and my father were both chiropractors. My dad practiced for 15.
So you were well adjusted then.
In some ways. I mean,
that's a in some ways, joke.
Yeah. In some ways, like we just kind of, lived with the normal American diet. And in other ways, it's like we did to everything totally different. Like, no vaccines, like no, all these things that are just like, when I was literally 18 and I was like, I started doing a research paper in school on vaccines at 18 because I was like, I'm one of the only, there were other chiropractors kids in my school, but I was like, I'm one of the only kids that's not vaccinated. So I'll just do research on it. So I did. And so that was like kind of the start of it. And as I got older, I made more decisions because I had kids. And so I thought, I want to do more with my diet that we never really did growing up, even though my dad was probably one of the most brilliant people that I feel like I've ever known. Like you'd ask him a question and he'd just like go on and on about the body and how this works and all these things. And, but at the same time, it's like, we kind of also lived a typical normal American lifestyle. So having kids changed me 100%. And like, I just wanted more for them.
So you said you did research about vaccines. What did you learn?
Well, so I was 18. I had to do I think it was like a senior research paper. And from that point, I was like, my parents didn't vaccinate me, but I went in thinking like, I don't know if I want to vaccinate my kids or not. Like that was kind of the approach I took. And so I went and I read really everything I could get my hands on. I read, I think it was like A Shot in the Dark, which was like the normal chiropractic reading material back then, which might still, I don't know if they still read that now. But then I also read material from like the CDC and like, you know, your normal mainstream like material. And I mean, I chose not to vaccinate my kids. And I felt like I started researching at 18 and went in with the idea of like, either way, I'm going to like go in with either like an open mind. And I mean, I decided not to. And I mean, in the past, my kids are teens now. And in the past, like 3 years, they've had both whooping cough and chickenpox in the past 3 years. And I actually, my brother was 18 months younger than me, and he got, you know, chickenpox as a child, and we're only 18 months apart. My mom didn't keep us apart or anything. And I never got, like, my mom was always like, I don't know if you got chickenpox as a kid. And then here at 40, I got chickenpox and I was fine. But I woke up one day and I was like, oh my gosh, I have chickenpox, because after my kids got it.
Well, I had chickenpox back in the day when I was a kid, as did literally every other kid that I knew. You know, it was just a matter of when you would get it, right? Not if.
Totally.
But when you were 40, it was chickenpox as opposed to shingles?
Yeah, no shingles. I had totally chickenpox, but it was different than my kids. So my kids, like, you know, it progressed over a few days. Like, it's like it works itself up the body. For me, I woke up one morning feeling my skin and thinking I had been like attacked by like bug bites. And I thought, oh my gosh, the mosquitoes were so bad last night. And looked in the mirror and I was covered in them. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like, I was just like freaking out because I was just totally covered in them. And it was not shingles at all. It was just chickenpox. It was like literally chickenpox all over my body, and from one night.
And how long did that sort of hang around, and how did it resolve?
So the interesting part was we had moved cross country, and my kids had it when we were in North Carolina. We moved cross country to Missouri, and, you know, my son had it a month earlier. And I literally, some of the nights, my son was getting over at the time a major autoimmune disease. And so I was kind of terrified for him, and I slept in his bed some. Didn't know I really hadn't ever had it, kind of assumed I had. And then 4 weeks later, we'd moved, and we're like waiting to be able to move into our house. And I'm at my mom's house, and I like woke up at her house, and it was like, 4 weeks later, just appeared in my body. Like, and that was, I mean, and you asked how long it lasts. It was, I mean, it was about 3 weeks maybe until I went away. I don't really remember. I just remember moving into our house and like not wanting to show my face in the neighborhood because like I'm like covered. My husband's like out meeting the neighbors, and I'm like, I can't meet anybody. Like, this is horrible. So I don't know, 2-3 weeks or something. 4 weeks. I don't know how many. Yeah.
And was it sort of insane itching for 2 or 3 weeks?
Actually, no. Like, I didn't really feel too itchy. It was just like really uncomfortable having all these weird bumps all over my body, mostly.
Right.
The itching wasn't bad. I don't remember anything really being bad besides being like embarrassed.
Yeah. Well, it seems like if I'm remembering my childhood right, they were itchy, and then everyone's like, don't itch them, don't pick them, because if you break them open, then it'll leave a scar and it'll be there forever. Yeah. And I
did kind of tell my kids that, like with them on their face and stuff, I'm like, don't scratch at it. But they actually didn't seem all that itchy either. Like, they were uncomfortable, but.
And I don't know if that's true or if that was like a legend that my parents told me to prevent myself from itching, about whether or not they would cause scars.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they scar, but my son actually does have a scar, like, but it's under his hairline, so it's not a real big deal. But I'm pretty sure it was from like one of the chicken pox that he has that scar from. I don't know. It's all fine. Everybody's fine.
I must say, I hadn't intended to have a podcast about chicken pox. But, you know, that's the way these things happen. Like,
I mean,
no one really expects to get chicken pox, but sometimes you do. You also mentioned whooping cough. So whooping cough seems really exotic to me. Like the chicken pox don't seem exotic. Whooping cough does. The idea of getting measles seems pretty exotic. But the reason I sort of bring this up is that, you know, it occurs to me that a couple decades ago, people got chicken pox all the time. They got things like whooping cough. They got things like measles. And they survived. It's not even a matter of surviving. It's like certain things like that, you get them and you get over them and your body develops immunity and, you know, you just, you know, miss school for a few days or whatever. And then you get right back on track. So like, what was it like? What was the whooping cough like?
So the whooping cough for my daughter just like kind of hacked for weeks and didn't have that whole whooping sound. Now my son, who he's older, he was I guess it was last year, he was 16. He had the full blown, like we knew it was whooping cough because it was very clear that that was the sound. And I consulted with another NTP, another friend of mine. And she was like, oh yeah, my kids have had it. And I kind of like ran it all through her. And she was like, yeah, that's definitely it. And so I actually even took him to an urgent care for further confirmation, and they do not test specifically for it anymore. And so the practitioner on staff was like, well, I'm comfortable diagnosing him with that though. Like he was like, didn't have anything else to offer. So I was like, okay, I'm like, all I'm really here for is that you can do a chest x-ray. And so I know my kid doesn't have any like pneumonia, you know, or anything further to worry about. And so he did his chest x-ray. He was like, yeah, he's clear. He was like, he even told me I could send him to school because everybody's vaccinated for it. So I was like, okay.
Whoa, wait, what?
Yeah. Like this is the urgent care doctor. And he told me it was totally fine to send him to school. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what to do with this information. So he was formally diagnosed with it and cleared for school by the practitioner on staff at the urgent care.
So there's such a thing as a vaccine that makes it so that you don't get an illness even if you're exposed to it. Because, okay, so that is what a vaccine is supposed to be, right?
It's supposed to, right?
I feel like recent experience that, you know, everyone in the world had did not include a vaccine that prevented you from getting an illness that you might be exposed to.
Right. I don't know. It's a whole confusing
getting really
ball.
Cold in this room right now. I feel like I'm like going out on some really thin ice.
It's real messy.
Okay, so
it was a very long, it was a lot of weeks that this like coughing went on, that it was terrible in the middle of the night. But everybody's fine. Okay. And nobody's coughing anymore. Fun. And I feel like, no, it's not fun. It was terrifying, to be honest. And I understand why parents want to prevent their children from having these things.
So having said all that, you know, we're talking about the body's ability to heal, you know, and of our body, the body's ability to sort of move on naturally and to find a place of health. Is that sort of, you know, part and parcel and central to the way that you approach your wellness and health coaching with people, you know, working with the body's innate ability to heal and be healthy?
Yeah. So I started out, you know, with my training in 2013 as an NTP and felt like, you know, I was like, there has to be, I was just looking for answers. I had little kids and I was looking for answers, and I wanted training to both help my family and help other people. And so for a long time, I was really focused on diet, and I was like, yeah, this is the answer to everything. And then as time went on, I realized that there's just, there's so much more to it. And how can we, in our human experience, really experience true health if we're not taking into account our emotional health, they say there's lots of cancers linked to traumas, like childhood traumas and things. So we have our emotional health, we have our spiritual health, and our spiritual health is how we connect to God, how we connect to ourselves, how we connect to other people. And if we can't get a full picture of all these things together, which we know, Western medicine doesn't really take into these things together. We're like focused just on the physical. If we don't focus on all these things, then like, how are we going to, experience true health? But then what is true health also? I mean, true health is also kind of, I think, living out your purpose, living out your human experience in a way that's, helping other people, engaging with other people, engaging with your environment. Like all these things is really like kind of how I approach health in general, but I also want to speak to the whole person.
So what does that look like, like in terms of a practical sense or interacting with people? Like, can you give me some sort of examples of ways in which you're addressing the whole person, mind, body, and spirit?
Yeah. So, I do have like a 12-week group coaching program that I call Charged. And I work with clients in kind of three major buckets. One, we do, of course, look at all the physical things. Like when I'm working with either clients one-on-one or in a group setting, I'm looking at we are looking at the diet. We're looking at, all the things that are important, your digestion, regulating your blood sugar, and those sorts of things. But then I'm also like, the reason I got certified as a life coach is because I really wanted to go even deeper in looking at our thoughts, because our thoughts really do determine, a lot of our direction. One, of course, they can determine like the motivation with maybe how you eat or something, but they can also just determine, how you live your life, how you interact with people, how you think about yourself. And so I always address that with my clients, because I don't think that you can experience like true health without it. And then again, we also go into just spiritual health, what it looks like to connect with God, for my clients as well, because I think you can't leave that piece out either.
Do you think that often people are kind of sabotaging themselves with their thoughts?
Oh, 100%. We all do. Like we're all living on programs that are either from we learned as children, or sometimes like some of them are generational, passed down, that we've learned from, generations have learned. And so, 100%.
And how do you begin to identify those with your clients?
Well, I help them walk through, there's something that and a lot of life coaches will use it, called the model. And what you look at is you look at your circumstances, right? Everybody's got circumstances. This is life. Things happen that are hard. But the difference often between, like, you'll have thoughts about your circumstances, and then you'll have feelings based on your thoughts. But we know that a lot of those thoughts can be changed because you can look at life from different perspectives. So you can have someone that has a real hard circumstance, and they could be beating themselves up about it. They can be thinking horrible things about it. They could have fear about it. Whatever that is, you can identify that. But then, depending on your thoughts about that, are going to give you these feelings. So certain people that have certain results in their life, you can see they have different patterns. So like they'll think about their circumstances differently, and maybe they'll see their circumstances hopeful instead of, something horrible. And that will totally change their trajectory where it comes to their results that they're getting. And so I'll help my clients identify a lot of those things too. And just awareness, I think awareness is the first thing. So your first step is always just becoming aware of those things, becoming aware of your habits and your patterns and what thoughts you might be thinking from circumstances, because then you have a little bit more power there to like change them.
Do you feel exhausted before your day even starts? Or do you struggle to balance demanding work and family with everything else? Do you wonder how to say no without guilt or set boundaries when everyone needs things from you? Does burnout feel inevitable no matter how hard you try to push through? Then check out my new book on Amazon, Stress Response. Manage your response to stress in order to reduce anxiety, avoid burnout, and find calm and steady focus. Now available on Amazon.com. Once you begin to identify what you are thinking and feeling, then you can sort of try to do something different. I hear a lot that ideas like forgiveness and gratitude are two very powerful, productive emotions and states of mind, mindsets for health and also healing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just a little personal story. I've been kind of taking a deep dive into my own finances, and I just wanted to know, like, I've been looking at my finances for my business, my finances for, my personal finances. And I'm just like, I just want to have more of a read on where all this money's going. And the other day I got real down, like I just got real down about it. But then, so I was so down about it. I was like, okay, like I just had to close it all down and then start just finding all my blessings. And so I closed it all down and I was like, okay, what am I thankful for? So I started like just listing off the things that I'm thankful for, the things that I've blessed with, the things that I've seen God do over the years. And it totally changed my outlook. And could have had a horrible rest of the day, and that causes so much stress on the body. Like, so we're talking about how all this causes like physical stress on you. Cause if you walk around with it like that, eventually that you'll have health issues with it if you don't already. And it's that chronic long-term stress that will cause all the health problems.
Right. And how does what we are eating impact how we feel, and how does how we feel impact what we do with that food, i.e. digestion?
Yeah, so when you are in like fight or flight, which is your kind of chronic stress state, like, primitive man was like running from a tiger. I went to Nepal several years back, and it's like people were afraid of wild elephants and, these things that people are. So if you're in your chronic fight or flight, you can't digest your food. So if you can't digest your food, you're not getting your nutrients. And if that's chronic, like all the time, you're not getting them ever. Your body's not getting all those building blocks. It's not getting all those tools that it needs to build everything, like all those chemical reactions in your body, which are your hormones, all these things. And then you're getting any of the resources you do have that go to like jacking up your cortisol because you're in chronic fight or flight. So then it's burning all those minerals you have. It's it's literally burning the resources you do have. So it's kind of like you're burning your gas.
Yeah. Well, and it's a double whammy in the sense that you staying in that fight or flight, that stress mode is so expensive in terms of using up the resources that you have. And then at the same time, you're not effectively digesting, and so you're not replenishing those raw materials effectively. So it sort of gets you on from both ways.
Yep.
When you talk to clients, work with folks, what ways do you help them to get out of that chronic stress pattern?
So one, we talked about that awareness is good. And I try to give them small steps at a time. And I try to preface this, like in my group program, I'm helping them frame what the rest of the program is going to be about. When I'm working with someone one-on-one, I'm just spending a lot of time understanding them as a person and realizing that when I give them steps to make some changes, I'll have to do it at their pace. And so I think one is either if you're in a like more group setting, they need to know these things about themselves. So you're making someone aware of themselves, what they need. Like and then those one-on-one settings again, like I'm like trying to understand them, and I'm trying to communicate to my client. I'm trying to educate them on like themselves. Like, this is what you may need. It's okay if you're feeling overwhelmed. Like, let's take this slow. And so we're coming into this awareness where you start to shift the biology because they've lived in a certain way for so long. You know, it's like it's part of them really in some ways. And so you have to start to just kind of unpeel the layers like an onion to help them walk through it. And for some people, it's a different pace than others, and that's okay.
Yeah, it takes time because it was a lifetime's worth of their previous experience to get them to where they are now. How can we expect that a lifetime's worth of that could be undone in just a few days or even a couple weeks?
Yeah. So I feel like I spend a lot of time teaching awareness, teaching them different techniques to kind of like make some shifts. I'm looking for like smaller shifts rather than, hey, let's take $500 worth of supplements and, like change all the things at once. And then people are like,
So yeah, replacing like meds with supplements and like looking for supplements to be sort of the big answer. No, I totally don't think so. But they do have a supportive place, right? We try to get as much as we can from our diets, but, we just talked about how it's really hard sometimes to, digest all that effectively. Do you think that supplements have a role to play?
I do feel like they have a role to play. And I've transitioned a lot over the years. I mean, there were times where I recommended clients a lot more supplements than now. Like now I kind of take more of a minimal approach to it. And I feel like, yes, there are times where they're important, but they're not really as important as I once thought. Mm-hmm. And so I think, in areas there's certain areas you can target and you can use them great. And nowadays I also tend to use plant stem cells a lot more than like traditional supplements, which are kind of, they're much different than like a typical herbal like tincture. They come in kind of like a tincture form, but they're from tiny plant buds. And so I found that they're way more powerful detoxing. So even at the moment, like in the mornings, my son has like completely recovered from a pretty severe autoimmune condition. And like I used to give him like handfuls of supplements. Now I give him like a few, but he always gets his plant stem cells. And I'm just like, they're my favorite. And because they detoxify too. And so I think there's definitely a need for some of those extra things, but that it doesn't have to be overwhelming or $500 worth of supplements or, one supplement for every whatever comes up low on your blood work or whatever, I think is a little too much.
So plant stem cells, tell me more about that. I don't know that I've heard much about that specifically.
Yeah, they're not widely known about really. And what I find is they come from a lot of plants that people are familiar with, like what the herbals do, but they don't realize the power behind like a immature plant. So the stem cells always come from like immature plant buds, and they have properties within them that are much more powerful than like a mature plant tincture or something like that. So if you understand a lot about herbals, we know that plants do a lot of cool stuff, but these immature plants are really fascinating. And I've just seen them do really amazing things for my clients because they can work with very sensitive people usually very sensitive people don't have reactions to them. So I've been able to work with like some of the most sensitive clients using them.
Well, when we hear stem cells, we think about something else. We think about, if we're talking about human stem cells, we're talking about cells that haven't yet differentiated, right? And they're often associated with, babies and, but we're talking about something different, right? Are we talking about something similar? And you're talking about immature plants.
We're talking about the like plant version of the human stem cell. So it's kind of like, like in the plant world, it's like that version of like what stem cells are kind of getting known to do in like human stem cells.
All right. So now we've covered vaccines and stem cells. What?
I mean, I don't think you knew what you were going to get today.
The other thing that I understand you have a lot of knowledge and experience about is essential oils, right?
Yes.
And so, we've been talking about various ways in which the body can be healthy. We talked a bit about diet and nutrition. We talked a bit about mindset, but what role does essential oils play?
So your essential oils are kind of like the lifeblood of, we call it the lifeblood of the plant. They're kind of like the protective part of the plant. So, I mean, essential oils, have a lot of antiseptic or those kind of properties to them. And so they can be used differently as well. So, I feel like if you're going to look at plants, like the most powerful versions of plant medicine, I guess, I would say that they are essential oils and plant stem cells would be kind of the most like potent version. Now, the only thing about the plant stem cells are really great for really sensitive people. Essential oils can be it, but people need to kind of bring more caution to the table. Like if they're a sensitive individual, and if they're not a sensitive individual, I think they can, there's just a lot more you can do with essential oils, but both are very effective. And they're my favorite ways to use plants.
There's a variety of ways to sort of use and receive essential oils, right? Like what kinds of mechanisms do you recommend?
I mean, topically is probably when someone's starting out. Well, actually, just even aromatherapy is great because your brain, I think we need to always remember that our brain is activated through scents. And your emotional part of your brain is activated through scents, especially. So when you're working with essential oils, just from an aromatherapy point of view, you can activate a lot of emotional healing, like movement, just movement with emotions through the body, because emotions can get stuck in the body, which is another conversation. But you can activate a lot of emotional healing and like even just movement with emotions through just aromatherapy. And then we can also use them topically. So using, you can use an essential oil either straight on the body or with a carrier oil. And your carrier oil is always your, you can use an olive oil, you can use an avocado oil, you can use a coconut oil. And for people, when it comes to like, if they have any kind of sensitive skin, they should always be using a carrier oil, most likely. And then you can use them internally, but I think people should, kind of know what they're doing before they're using it that way. And I think one of the biggest problems with essential oils these days, I got started in essential oils 13 years ago. And now they're so prominent that there are a lot of oils on the market that are not good quality. So you really do want to be careful of that. Because a lot of people will say, oh, I have reactions to lavender. Well, lavender is one of the most adulterated essential oils in the whole world. And so it's a good chance that if you're reacting to lavender, you actually aren't using a real lavender. And so that's always something to just be aware of. And I think that's something that's given essential oils a little bit of a bad rap because people will have sometimes not the best experience, but it will be because they're not using a good product.
Yeah. Well, you know what gets me? these commercials where you have people dancing around and like burying their face in, I don't know, like a towel or a piece of laundry that they just washed in something that is highly scented, and they're just like, oh, this chemical smell is so wonderful. Oh, or like the commercial is like, oh, I'm moving, I'm dancing all day long because of the chemical scent in my, fabric softener. Am I the only one that I just see those commercials and I'm like, oh.
Well, the worst is when you go into, I don't know if men's bathrooms are like this as much, but a women's bathroom, and it's like the plugins are in the wall and you're like, I can't even be in here right now. Like, this is horrible. Like,
just getting
it's like just as bad as the fabric softener. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Call me old fashioned, but just burying your face in chemical smell. I mean, that's even worse than like the little, oh, this new car smell. Ooh, I just love this new car smell. Like, what do you think that is?
I mean, I don't even like walking around my neighborhood sometimes when I can smell people's laundry detergent. And I'm like, oh, they're using that really heavily scented stuff. Like, how do people deal with that? That was like one of my only allergies as a kid was like detergent. I would get really itchy and I'm like, what is happening? And then I realized it was the detergent.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, we've had a very wide-reaching conversation, I would say. Do you have any sort of closing thoughts or additional things you'd sort of like to get across?
Well, I guess, yeah, just when it comes to healing, I mean, I think the whole person is just the way to go. Like, I think anybody should be wary of when they're looking for someone to partner with in their health, that they are partnering with someone that sees them as, not only just physical, but also emotional and spiritual too.
Yeah. Well, if I had to sum it up, I'd say there aren't any really quick answers. There's not like a short list and a precise list of things that you have to do to sort of tick off all the boxes. And that, we have spent a lifetime getting to where we are now. So it's going to take some time to figure out sort of where we're at and in what ways we're getting ourselves in trouble, because everyone is somehow. And that our bodies are designed to heal, and they have, out in nature and in this world are all the things that we need. And we just have to, find those and ingest those at the right times and dodge the stuff that we were not meant to ingest. And, have the right mindset and have the right sort of faith and beliefs in the right things that serve us. And that's kind of the message that I get from you. And I think you and I, are on the same page with all that stuff.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Well, thank you so much, Becky, for coming out today and talking. If folks want to get in touch with you, if they want to learn more about who you are, what you do, what you offer, where can they find you online?
Instagram is a good place. You can find me at Becky J. Webb is my Instagram handle. And shoot me a DM. I'd love to hear from anyone if they have any questions or anything. I also have a website, beckyjwebb.com, but honestly, Instagram is probably the best way to get in touch with me.
Very cool. All right. Talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking for more? Visit what'sworthwhile.net to listen to podcast episodes, learn from books and articles, and live better by choosing healthy products and practices. I'm now offering services through Worthwhile Advisors for personal coaching, professional advising, speaking, and group facilitation. If you or your team are ready to reduce stress and anxiety, build vitality and momentum and accomplish your goals without burning out, then please contact me, Ramsey Zimmerman, through the website or on social media like Instagram, X, or LinkedIn. Thanks.